have with me here Paul Bruce. He is a solutions architect at Neotys. Welcome to DTV, Paul.
Thank you.
Great. So, Paul, Neotys, can you tell us briefly what you guys do?
Sure. We do performance testing. We provide solutions to help people do their performance testing, to do it continuously, and also to make sure that there's feedback goes back to people who can actually fix the problems that they introduce in terms of scalability, reliability, and availability. So we make sure that people have the right tools that fit their cycles, that there's a clock speed match between the development and the testing to make sure that performance is baked in to the planning process and the staging process, and actually provide testing solutions that help people to do that at all sorts of organizations, big and small.
And so when it comes to testing in general, do you see that as becoming a part of the DevOps equation, or is it a separate thing? And also to that question, is testing now becoming a lot more automated in today's kind of digital world than it was in the past?
Sure. So you mentioned digital world, right? There's a lot of companies who are no longer brick and mortar. We still have brick and mortar all over the place. They also realize that I think IT, particularly development and software, it's not just eating the world, right? It's that it's no longer supportive. It's the way to have a business that's supported by traditional brick and mortar or whatever you do, right? So in the physical world. The digital part of this is, how do we do that better than everybody else? How do we differentiate? Sometimes it's not always better, it's just different. So how do two different brands compete at a digital level, right? As it turns out, that's usually mobile, web, but there's also a lot of back-end stuff, APIs. So with this landscape, right, with this urgency and this imperative to put software out there that actually has a huge impact on your revenue streams, that's what the digital is all about. The problem is it causes complexity. And so you've got these APIs, you've got back-end systems, you've got clusters and Kafka and all sorts of stuff in the back end that it's not automatically scalable, right? These things don't just, scalability doesn't come for free. Reliability takes a lot of hard work, right? The question is, how do you regularly prove that that's going to work? And so rather than leaving it to all the way at the end of a life cycle, which is what a lot of people used to do, like in the waterfall days, right? Plus Agile, plus DevOps. Now we're starting to get smaller in how we deliver more frequently. And that means that we have to provide feedback more frequently. So the feedback that, particularly in the performance space that you're looking for is what I've launched going to be able to handle the load that we're going to put on it? And so one of the things that I think is important about testing is it's just a tactic. Testing is just a tactic. What is your strategy? What is your approach? What is the goal? And so what we do is we work directly with customers, with a lot of partners, to make sure that those other elements of the notion of performance if you're going to go digital, performance is imperative. And so we make sure that the whole thing is thought through. We don't just sell tools. We provide solutions. We help customers right fit, right? We work with all sorts of folks, like I said, and we get to see a variety of like appetites and maturities. And either way, ultimately at the end of the day, we provide technologies that can work up in the cloud, down on premise, mixture of both. You can have us do some of the, provide some of the services. We work with a lot of service partners to do so. We also have SaaS products, and we also have all of our software that you can run and spin on your own. You can do it yourself if you want to. So that's kind of how I would approach the question about testing in DevOps. I don't think DevOps is eating the world. It depends. It's a right fit. We have to be okay to say the world is not simple. We can't come at it simply. We need to think together and work together. And amongst other things, I think that's what DevOps brings to the table, is the need to quickly, efficiently, and to your point earlier, automation, right? Automate not everything. Automate what makes sense, what makes the most sense. There are some things you still need to manually check. But to rely on automated by default, rather than to rely on manual by default.
Yeah, and there is no better way. You should use both. Is that the idea, or
Again, it depends.
yeah, it depends on the scenario.
Right. If we're talking about an organization that's been in the space for 50, 60 years, they're traditionally brick and mortar, and they're trying to get more automated, then they're going to have a lot of manual things that still need to stay manual until you get the enablers to make them not manual. Right. That's what we're in the business of when it comes to performance, is to enable them to do automated when they see fit. Yep. And we help people migrate from these really old dinosaur crusty sort of solutions for load testing into something that is containerized. It can be spun up anywhere you want. Yeah. It's not restrictive in terms of licensing compared to all the other solutions. And it fits into your landscape, not just now, what tools and processes you have now, but also in the future. We work with various technologies. We're really good friends with the Dynatrace team. We've got a bidirectional integration with them. We work with QA Symphony. We work with all sorts of partners technically to make sure that what you have in place also we can fit in there as well.
Right. And you mentioned earlier the capability to kind of record and save some of the tests that go on so that it can become a lot more intelligent, the next round. So is that a capability that's associated with your platform?
Yeah, what we're finding is that there's a lot of hype and, quite frankly, bullcrap in the AI space. Everybody wants to throw the keyword in, but there are...
Which is what I was going to throw in, but I prevented.
There are intelligent ways. You always have to ask yourself with a new technology, right? What does this do for me that the old technology didn't? And there's a lot of places where we're still seeing that people are just trying to bang the gong of artificial intelligence without really understanding, is there a proper use case for this? So one of the proper use cases that I think we're looking at is with our integrations with APM solutions, right? We're load testing. There's a market of APM solutions. We're friends with all of them, right? And there's insights and information that comes from either your production or your pre-production, but looking at the actual stack running your thing that can help to inform maybe your test coverage strategy. If you think about performance tests and you're just running these things that people thought were important, might not actually be what's really important in production. Things have changed. The code has slid to a different place. So we want that information, that context about what's actually happening in production or what's happening in from the functional side of things to be able to inform what you should bother with in terms of performance and prioritize. That goes back to that strategy, the approach. What is your approach, right? What is your ultimate goal? So in terms of how we work, there are some things that we're doing internally to figure out, what's the right fit for machine learning. It's a great concept, but just jumping into it without really having a strong use case, we usually like to make sure that what we build has direct impact on our customers. And so usually what I look for is, yes, but is there a customer who will deeply benefit from what we're doing, right? It's not just hype, it's reality. So we've got a couple of things right now. We're working on basically taking APM insights and being able to inform the test coverage as well as the test volume parts of our strategy. And we look forward to kind of working with other people to figure out what are the other use cases there as well.
Yeah. And speaking of hype and reality, let's talk about containers. It seems to be a very popular thing today, as many of our clients are going in that direction. Is that something that you see becoming more prominent, especially in this sector?
Oh yeah, anything you can put in a container, put it in a container.
Okay. So clear.
For heaven's sake, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's let's take an example of, by default we have these web dashboards, and by default, our R&D team prefers that you launch it as a set of Docker containers. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Just because it's fun and hot? It's actually better to do that from a support, because you know cryptographically, right, that the contents of that container have not been changed. The deployment isn't just how easy it is to deploy, it's how easy it is to package it up, and prove that what's running in production is something you can support. If it's just a bunch of random installers and you leave it to your IT team to implement a vendor solution, they can implement it in a million ways and it might run poorly because of the operational problems in that particular situation. So the other thing is it just makes a lot of sense. I've been working with Docker for a while. I've just started getting into the kube stuff. I'm trying to do some examples on how you could spin up a controller and load generator on Neotys in a kube file pretty easily. I don't think that's hype. I think that's a reality that we've already seen for a while. I think there are clear cases where it's absolutely the way you should go. And then there's other cases where it's like, how do we fit this old service into a container world? There's no container mainframe. Like mainframes don't fit into containers necessarily. But that's where we see things like when people start to break up the monoliths, things like services that used to be deployed in a traditional way, they break them up. Now they got these individual microservices that they can start to containerize, which allows them to deploy that a lot faster because it's by default automated and verifiable. And that's what we try to do. We try to make what people do verifiable, particularly in the performance space. That's where we go.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, really.
Neotys, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning into this episode of DTV.
I want my